Hey guys, welcome back to the Greenback Voyage podcast. I'm your host, Shravan,
And I'm your co host, Joel.
and we are in week two of March 2021. And we can start off with the basic news, the coronavirus updates. I think the biggest news coming out of this week is lots of states are rolling back their mask mandates, specifically Texas is one of
Right.
the major ones so far.
Yeah, I think the governor of Texas, he said 100% reopen policy. So there's a lot of people who are critical of that, but looks like Texas will be the first state to be going back to completely normal
Yeah, and
pre-pandemic.
while a lot of people do kind of bash on Texas, they are, I think, one of the leaders in giving out vaccines throughout
Hmm.
the US. So they have like a pretty good infrastructure for, I guess, their vaccine supply chain infrastructure.
Right. As far as vaccine doses go, I think we're very, really close to administering 100 million doses.
Hmm.
Right now, we're at 82 million that's been given so far in the U.S. Um, and also, we haven't actually increased a lot in total deaths. We're just about 520,000 deaths right now. So things are seeming to slow down in cases and deaths, and as vaccine doses go up administered.
Yeah, and I think there's Egypt's come out and says that they're going to charge some of the residents for the COVID vaccine, which is
Yeah, that's unusual. I mean, I don't understand. Maybe they're going through a lot of financial stress, but to charge your residents for a shot, um, that could hinder some vaccine efforts trying to vaccinate the whole population.
yeah, you would think maybe the UN or maybe even the IMF in the scenario could help them out financially, but I don't know what they were thinking.
Right.
But yeah, we have J&J, which we can talk more about later. So their newly authorized vaccines are expected to reach states and vaccination sites as early as this week. They're hoping that their deal with Merrick, which we'll again touch base on a bit later, they'll probably release all their vaccines, like 3.5 million, I think,
Mhm.
by the end of this month.
Right.
As well as that, we have, Pfizer and AstraZeneca having the single dose vaccine, which has shown to sharply reduce serious illness and deaths in elderly people, according to the UK, which is quite amazing considering everyone was hyping about how we're going to need both the vaccines, but if we just need one in order to survive for the year, I think that'll
Hmm.
definitely help ramp the economy. And the
Yeah.
Biden administration.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to continue on what you're saying, but Pfizer. This is great news. What UK has said. A lot of other countries like Israel have also supported that Pfizer is very, very effective with just a single dose. So this is pretty good news regarding Pfizer's vaccine.
Yeah, and surprisingly, the Biden administration seems to be closing its borders for the vaccine supplies and isn't considering sharing anything with Mexico right now.
Yeah, they're not going to be giving any of our vaccine supply to Mexico.
Mhm. And I guess with the way Trump kind of screwed everything up in terms of the supply, it does kind of make sense that we would want to focus on our society before going to Mexico.
So I think we should touch on another major news here. The Senate has revised the 1.9 trillion dollar stimulus, and it's heading back to the House right now for a vote. And once that's done, it'll go to Biden, and he'll have to sign it. Um, One of the noteworthy things about what the Senate has revised is the minimum wage. So there are a lot. I think like eight or seven Democratic senators, Democrat senators. They voted against the $15 minimum wage.
Hmm.
Um, that's I was pretty surprised. I didn't I knew that the bill or sorry, I knew that the $15 minimum wage is unlikely to get passed, but to see like 6 or 7 senators vote against that, I was pretty surprised. I thought it would just be like one or two. But it looks like, the Democrats aren't on a you know firm stance to pass this.
Yeah, I think two reasons for that. One, there's like multiple articles out there now which kind of state that most businesses would like, they don't mind the minimum wage rising. They just think it shouldn't be doubling within, 4 years' time. They
Hmm.
think it should increase at a much slower rate than what is proposed right now. And then, yeah, going off on that, with many of those small businesses and others being in those swing states and Democrats being elected in those positions, I don't think they'd really want to upset those constituents um,
Right. It
by
should probably
addressing
be
this.
like a progressive wage increase.
Hmm.
Um, I think like 2/3 of the American population support a $15 minimum wage, but I think where some people differ is the
How
rate
fast?
at yeah, how fast it's going to increase. Right, a sudden increase in minimum wage might have negative impacts on small businesses, and I guess in the overall economy.
Hmm.
But if you increase it over a decade, or a few years, I guess not a few years, but over like 8 to 10 years, that would ease some of the transition.
Yeah, and
But then you.
I
Mhm.
think if they introduce the minimum wage, another issue is it's kind of going to give more power to, the top dogs, which they're trying to kind of minimize in the first place. Because we've seen all the increases from corporations for the minimum wage. So it's not like they're really caring about whether the CEOs or their executive board is going to lose money.
Right. But then if we go back to the rate of minimum wage increasing, I think what some of the progressives are saying is that we're in a dire situation because of the pandemic,
Hmm.
and people are suffering out there, and we need to jumpstart, or not jumpstart, but we need to help them now by doubling their minimum wage or doubling their salary. So I guess I can see where they're coming from there, or but I think a sudden increase in minimum wage would definitely impact small businesses in the short term.
Yeah, definitely. Another main highlight is any college students that are dependent under that are registered as a dependent on their parents. So their parents are likely to receive those $1,400 stimulus checks now, which wasn't introduced in the first two bills. So kind
Hmm.
of surprising that they do it now.
Right.
But yeah, I think the other surprising thing is no Republicans voted or backed the bill at all.
Yeah. So I think the House itself, only one or two Republicans actually supported the bill, and in the Senate, no Republicans supported the bill at all. They wanted to have a $700 billion stimulus bill instead of a $1.9 trillion stimulus. Um, but when you look at the stimulus bill, there's a lot of funding that's going to these blue states that have actually mismanaged some of the capital states like California and New York. And I guess the Republicans are against that, right?
Hmm.
I like 350 billion dollars is going to state and local aid here. And given Gavin Newsom in California, he's actually mismanaged a lot of the capital that was given in a lot there. He was also participated in a bunch of non-bid contracts. I think there's one news that came out. He spent like $16 million for tents for homeless people, and with all the expenses, it came to about $65,000 per tent per homeless person. So that was a huge mismanagement of capital there. So
Geez, you could
all
buy a
all
home
yeah,
with that.
yeah, that's right. So a lot of things went wrong, and I think that's what Republicans are trying to. Or that's why Republicans didn't vote for this huge stimulus bill because they don't want a repeat of that.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I guess, like we mentioned on before with Merck and Johnson and Johnson, President Biden, announced Tuesday that with the pharmaceutical giant Merck joining Johnson and Johnson to help ramp up their production of their single shot vaccine, he's hoping
Hmm.
that by the end of May, all of Americans would have received the vaccine, which is insane. I mean, I don't think we've heard anything from Dr. Fauci on any updates with regard to when everyone would get vaccinated by, or when the general public would get the vaccination. And
Yeah, I mean, by May seems very, very optimistic. I don't think it's possible by May.
mhm,
Um, I think it's very likely that most of us will. I think most of the American, like 90% of the Americans, will get vaccinated by the end of the year. But to do that by May, there's just a huge supply chain and logistics issues that you're gonna run into. Like, because you're planning this in 2 months, right? That's just a huge task to take on. Um, and also there's the issue of a lot of minorities and certain people who don't believe who don't trust the vaccine. A lot of polls show that people, like, I think 1/3 or up to 50% of the people don't trust in the vaccine. So you're gonna have to tackle all those problems to be able to administer vaccine to the entire population.
yeah, that I totally agree with that. I think the other thing is, didn't Fauci mention something like 2 weeks ago that the general public would not get the vaccines till June? And for Biden to announce that everyone would get their vaccines by end of May, that technically means that within what I'd say within by April 1st, they have to open the vaccines to the general public. Otherwise, I
Right,
don't think it's possible for Biden to be so optimistic about this.
right. Um,
Yeah,
well,
but
I mean, good luck to them. I mean, I'm
yeah.
all for administering vaccines to everyone, but
Hmm.
it seems very unlikely, and I think they're being too optimistic about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're spending around 105 million just to kind of ramp up the production facilities within Merck. So what's
Okay.
mainly going to happen is Merck is going to have two facilities dedicated to this vaccine, and one will, make the vaccine, and the other will provide the kind of fill finish services.
Okay.
Basically, the vaccine is placed in the vials, so they can just kind of ramp up that.
Right. I mean, first of all, I mean, so is Biden focusing on uh, exclusively giving out J&J's vaccine, or is it going to be Moderna, Pfizer, and J&J being simultaneously administered? Because
I
I know
think
we have,
he's just trying to get as much as he can, because right
right.
now the government itself says that they're going to ship out J&J's entire inventory that they have of around 4
Mhm.
million doses by the end of this week alone.
Right,
Um,
because I know we have like friends who said they got the Moderna vaccine, and some who've said they got the Pfizer vaccine.
mhm.
I'm not really sure. Like, if you go to like a doctor or a pharmacy, how do they decide what vaccine to give to you? I mean, do they all have the same result? I mean, so they have different efficacy
Yeah.
rates, right? I guess they're all. I mean, once they I guess once each vaccine has passed the requirements, they're just going all out with giving as much vaccines as they can give.
And the issue is, when we thought, one of the reasons I didn't want to get the vaccine too early is to see whether there are any major problems
Hmm.
with taking it that maybe Pfizer or Moderna didn't you know see in their report. But that's going to be hard to decide, and it looks like it might be more of a long-term issue that it may present itself. I mean, we don't know for certain, but yeah, to me, it seems like too many good things are happening at once, and as you all know, the world doesn't like too many good things happening at once.
Yeah.
And
Well,
speaking of one of the bad things that to happen,
mhm.
our portfolios crashed this week, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, not just ours, but a lot of people. Um, I guess like my portfolio took a huge hit because I have a lot of exposure to growth stocks,
Mm-hmm.
and with rising yields, yeah, it my portfolio took a big tumble. I was outperforming the S&P 500 for the past 2 months, and now I'm very close to where the S&P's gains were. So
Yeah, I think the issue here is um, we might have invested in stocks that had high beta and just,
right,
while we knew we were investing in risky stocks, I didn't think it'd be this risky because I think the S&P only declined, I think 1.1% this entire week. And
hmm
I know my portfolio was at least down like 3%, if not more.
yeah. I
So,
mean, if you look at the advance and decline charts, you can see like it's pretty much split. So what we can see from that is all the growth stocks and hot rich valuation stocks are all tumbling, while value stocks and
hmm
stocks that were beaten up this past year, they're all continuing to grow. I mean, we saw ourselves. I mean, airlines, oil like Exxon or Exxon stock was booming for the past week. It was up 3% pretty much every day on average.
hmm
Um, so a lot of money is flowing into these beaten down stocks, with the word because of the high yields, rising yields. I think like what was it Thursday when it hit 1.5, the 10-year Treasury note.
almost
Um,
1.6.
yeah, so it makes sense why growth stocks are tumbling. Investors are seeing a recovery in the economy this year. So they're going into so there's a huge sector change into all these like industrials and oil and gas, these sectors.
Yeah. And speaking of XLE, I think we were right about XLE and how it was going to grow. I don't know if you recall, like a couple podcasts ago,
Right.
we were talking about the growth, and I think from then on, it grew about, I want to say at least almost 30%.
Yeah, it did. I
Um,
mean, this year it's I think the energy sector is up 30% or
yeah.
near that range.
So, yeah, I have Exxon since January, so that's done fairly well.
hmm
And SPG is another value stock I own that's done fairly well. But yeah, most of my portfolio is concentrated in the growth sector. So, um, luckily, I think the week before I did take out a lot of positions, seeing
Right.
that we were on troubling times, but still, it wasn't enough because Palantir completely failed. So,
Right.
yeah, I think one
Yeah.
major surprise is Tesla, though. I
Yeah.
don't,
Tesla, big drop.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
ever since we did that special podcast on Tesla, it was like 800 billion valuation then, all the way down to 500.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it is one of the most overvalued stocks in the market right now, right?
hmm
With a lot of big money in it, and once you have, yields and signals of a recovery in the economy, it's the people are going to pull out their big money and move it to other sectors, and that's exactly what we saw here. Um, but I mean, what I did was I sold out of a lot of small positions in these renewable energy stocks, some of the cloud stocks and technology stocks, and I consolidated into one stock that I know pretty well and I follow mostly, and that's Palantir.
hmm
Um, and I told you guys before, a few days ago that to protect that position, I just sold a covered call on that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's currently that's what I did, but I don't think I'm going to be ready to get into the renewable sector yet, uh, but, unless I see till I see a new good news or some sort of or even like yields dropping. Um, so that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I think ARK
Uh,
kind of has the same plans as you, because they're investing a lot now into growth plays that we really wouldn't think anyone would be investing in, like Zoom.
mhm,
I think they have what 3 more million shares in Palantir again.
right.
They have a couple more in Zillow, I'm pretty sure, and PayPal is one of them. And I really thought they'd be more interested in like the top technology stocks because that's where they were leaning towards. But I think what Kathy Wood said recently is they're buying stocks while everyone else is selling them, and they start selling them as everyone is riding the wave on them, which I guess is proven over the last couple of months because that is what they were kind of doing.
Right. I mean, it's just, as simple as buy the dip and, be greedy when others are fearful. That
Hmm.
strategy. Um, but, so I mean, Kathy obviously has a great track record, as we've seen in the past 2 years, right? She's
Hmm.
been right on a lot of stocks. So to see her buying, that's a good signal, I guess. Um, but I would still like to see some declines in the treasury yields, um, and some money flowing back into the tech sector, some investor confidence in the tech sector,
Hmm.
um, right? So that's the only thing I would like to see. But I mean, I guess when you look at her like podcasts or her speeches on or whenever she's on CNBC or something, she's always in the long term, right, projection. I'm investing for the next 5 to 10 years, and so for her to be buying at these dips, it makes sense. So that's I mean that's she's been right on a lot of things. She might be right on this too. So
Yeah, but we also got to, kind of remember that um, how long is it until Kathy Wood starts to kind of fail? Because while everyone thinks Kathy Wood might be like the next new thing, we also got to look at historical data in the past and see that most of these hyped up funds or firms that gain so much within 1 year or 2 years kind of start faltering after that. And you could lose as much as like
yeah,
30% in the following years.
right. I mean, we kind of see. I mean, we've kind of seen that last year, or to the end of last year, when there was just this huge outflow in all these ARK funds. It's kind of like the investors kind of rode the wave in 2020 with Kathy, and they just got out in December, and they put their money into value stocks. Right?
Hmm.
They just ran the hype, and now they're out of it. The question is, are they going to get it back into it with Kathy and her funds? So I think it was like up to $1 billion in outflow in all those funds, which was
Yeah.
insane. It was one of the, I think it was the biggest outflow in the fund recorded to date. Um, but I mean, she's continuing to buy stocks as we've seen in the daily report that she sends out, um, and she might be right on this. Who knows? We'll have to
Yeah.
see.
And in terms of the Fed and inflation, I mean, Powell really screwed over the stocks. He didn't really do much to assure us. He keeps, I mean, there's,
just when he started talking and I saw the tweets coming in, the market just started nosediving. I was like,
yeah, I mean, there is only so much you can do at the same time. Um,
mhm.
but what many people are suggesting he might do is employ Operation Twist, which is sort of, it is a quantitative easing method. So what quantitative easing is when a central bank buys longer term securities from what they sold off their short term securities. And
Mhm.
Operation Twist is more of, buying long term notes and bonds with by selling their short term uh, notes and bonds and using those to buy the long terms.
Right.
And what this does is it increases demand for those treasury notes. And as the demand rises, the price rises, which is offset by lower yield for investors, which in turn, hopefully would decrease the 10-year bond prices. The only issue with that is if they uh, do too much of that, then we have an inverted yield curve. And in the past, we've seen that inverted yield curves have caused major market crashes within the following months.
Mhm.
So it is a tactic that they could employ, especially with how steep the curve is, but they got to be careful not to overdo it, as I think they have been doing throughout this entire pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna keep interest rates, or the Fed's gonna keep interest rates near zero for the next like 3 to 5 years, I think, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, once they start increasing the interest rate, then we might, if for the next 3 to 5 years the Nasdaq continues to rally, and we see interest rates start to take up, then we could see some major correction then. But it looks like they're going to continue their fiscal policy right now. The same thing. That's what he said. He's not gonna do much regarding this, and he was also hinting at inflation, like a short-term inflation happening.
Yeah.
So with that all in mind, and with the treasury not going up, it makes sense, to be in value stocks right now.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess another small thing we got to point out before we actually go on to maybe corporate and foreign news is the Buzz ETF. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports,
Barstool
right?
Sports, yeah,
Yeah.
he collaborated with Buzz Holdings to create 75 stocks that
Mm-hmm.
are based off bullish social media sentiment, and I don't know. It seems kind of overblown, this whole Reddit thing. And I
Well,
know they were all like, we're not basing it off Reddit, we're basing it off Twitter and all this BS. But like, come on, you're telling me that this is not going to work. I'm pretty
so
sure when it opened, it lost 10% within the first 3 hours
what?
alone.
So I think so. What they've said in their white paper is basically they're going to use some type of special AI program to identify these stocks. Um, so I think it's basically going to be like Swaggy stocks, right?
Yeah.
Basically that site that was developed by some guy, and what that site does, it goes through Wall Street bets, and it basically reads every single post on that site, and it sorts out based on sentiment. So if you go on that site, you can see what Wall Street Bet members are tweeting, or not tweeting, writing about mostly. And the top five is usually like GameStop, Palantir, AMC. Last week it was Rocket Mortgages, and a few other stocks that are always trending. And it kind of shows you, the posts, the upvotes, downvotes, everything on that. So what Dave and Buzz are probably going to do with this ETF is probably going to employ the same thing, and it's going to select those top 50 or 75 stocks that are being tweeted by or tweeted on social media, on Twitter, or upvoted on, or very popular on Reddit, and those stocks are going to be in this ETF.
This is the
Um,
dumbest thing I've ever heard, fam. Like, what is this? I
this
mean,
is yeah. I mean,
go.
there's no fundamental. So what do you
The
going
point
to
of an
get out of
ETF,
investing in this?
yeah, the point of an ETF is to diversify your portfolio over
Right.
a broad range of stocks so that if the market crashes, your ETF doesn't go along with it.
Hmm.
And this ETF is basically doing the opposite of that. It's more risky than buying one of these stocks alone.
I mean, see, like we have ETFs, right? I think we both have this ETF called Drive, which is a global X fund. It focuses on automation
Yeah,
and
but the
electric vehicle
companies
stocks, right?
companies in those are very valued companies that have been a
Right.
part of the entire corporate role for many years and has seen profits. I mean, sure, I've ridden profits off of Virgin Galactic, Palantir, and all these other hype stocks, but I'm not going to hold them long term. There's no way that
Yeah,
this is going to
that
work.
goes to the same thing with Buzz. Like, how do you identify when to sell out of this? I mean, we saw with GameStop, it went all the way to $500,
Hmm.
and now it's back down to $150, $200 range. So, let's say your ETF picks up, some social sentiment of a new stock. You guys allocate your funds into that stock, and then you ride the wave. Like, how do you know when to sell out? And it's just going to be an ETF dedicated to just hype. If you want to buy into hype, this is the ETF to go to, and
Right?
that, to me, that's not a productive asset to invest in.
No offense
Um,
to Dave Portnoy. I mean, I love his reviews and Barstool Sports in general, but come on.
especially his
He's
pizza
he's
reviews.
yeah, I mean, it's legendary, but a man who's been day trading for 1 year. He's been trading as long as
Yeah.
I have for specifically option trading. And you're telling me this man is part owner of this holding?
I don't know if you saw a video of Dave. He was live streaming, and he had like a position in Amazon, and he was about to close all his positions for the day, and he ended up buying whatever he was going to sell on Amazon, which is the funniest thing I've
Oh
seen.
my
Like
God.
like a 1 minute later, he's like, oh shit, I didn't sell. I bought another 500 shares in Amazon. And so the, I mean, the guy's he's pretty funny, but
Stick to pizza, man.
well, I mean the ETF. I don't know what they're gonna achieve from the ETF.
Nothing. It's probably going to be hype so that they can sell out of it immediately.
Yeah, it's also like kind of taking advantage of young new investors or retail investors who are getting into the market, and they're the ones who are going to be buying into this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the stock is solely, basically the exposure is to hype. It's not certain industry. It's just the exposure of the ETF is to hype, and if that hype dies out, right? It's all a bubble, and if they invest into this and it's a bubble and it pops, they're gonna get burned out, obviously. So
Dumbest thing, man. It's honestly,
personally, I would stay away from this ETF completely. Don't buy into it. Don't have not even 1%
I would
exposure
rather
to
put
this
it
ETF.
100% in Virgin Galactic than buy this.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but I guess we got to stop talking about that. We got to talk more relevant news. One of them is Microsoft and Google. So both of them have had pretty interesting weeks. Microsoft has introduced their Microsoft Mesh within their conference. And while we all thought AMD was going to take the spotlight, this really took the spotlight. And what it is, it's basically a cloud service where people can develop applications for the virtual world, holograms, doodles, and virtual avatars, basically. It's the next step in, God, what's that movie name?
so is it Ready Player One?
Yeah, that one. It's basically, that's what it is, basically. It's a mixed
So will
kind
it be
of
like
reality.
will it be so I think you know about the Microsoft HoloLens, right? So is this like a direct collaboration with that technology?
I think it
Like, or
is.
that
I think
product?
also
Okay.
they're seeing what Facebook is doing, and they're trying to, I guess, get out there earlier than anyone else.
Yeah,
Um,
Facebook has Oculus, right?
yeah, so
Yeah,
HoloLens wasn't
so
really enough because Facebook bought
yeah.
Oculus. So yeah, with this, I mean, I think it'll take at least a couple years before AI can or businesses can definitely implement this. Maybe if they
Yeah.
introduce this 5 years earlier, who knows? Maybe we could use this during this pandemic. But yeah,
I mean, this has pretty good implications. I mean, you can use the this type of hologram technology in education, in designing, manufacturing, a lot of things. There's a lot of potential for holograms.
Mhm.
It's pretty interesting. Microsoft's spending more money into this, but going on Microsoft, they were hacked by Chinese hackers. Uh, so I think Microsoft's Exchange software. Hackers broke into a lot of email accounts, and I think just a few months ago, Microsoft also had another big hack in their government servers, and they couldn't even assess to the extent of what or not what, like how much information was exposed. They didn't have like an assessment of how much these Russian, I believe it was Russian hackers
For the election,
read
you mean?
information.
Or
No, it was not the election. This was just I think it was the Solar Winds, and that time when
okay.
Solar Winds got hacked. Yeah, so Microsoft, yeah, they went through a huge hack back then, and now they're getting hacked by Chinese hackers as well. Um, but I mean, this just shows that there's going to be more money being thrown into cybersecurity industry the following years,
hmm
as the government wants to get more and more secure and try to avoid these incidents. CrowdStrike and a lot of other stocks are gonna continue to rally and grow based on these news.
Yeah. Yeah, and in other big news, we have Google, who surprisingly is going to stop collecting user info based off their third-party cookies, of course. So I think Google can still collect some information, just won't be as much as they have in the past.
Okay. hmm
So yeah,
That's
I
interesting.
still don't use Chrome. Um, I use Brave browser, best browser there is out there, even though the memory is kind of dog shit. But
I don't think I can leave Chrome. The integration with all of your devices, and it's just too good.
Yeah, I guess that is
So,
a good. I mean, Brave does kind of have something similar to that. Only
mhm.
issue is, yeah, it doesn't save as much info as Google, so it won't really set your preferences, say if you reset your computer or something like that. Um, yeah, but I mean, Microsoft Edge is up there as well, so uh,
Yeah.
that's basically a Chromium browser. So I still have some part of Chrome in me, just not full Chrome.
Well, continuing on Google News, Trade Desk, ticker symbol is TTD,
Hmm.
is emerging as a challenger to Google in the ad revenue space. Basically, the Trade Desk has got into has kind of cornered the market in digital advertising in TV. Um, and This year, Trade Desk revenue has surged 26%.
So
What people are saying is,
what do they do differently from Google?
it's just streaming commercials, areas like audio, where Google hasn't really gone into those sectors yet, or those parts of the market.
Oh, okay, okay.
Um, so, I mean, in our special yesterday, we were talking about how Google, Amazon, and Microsoft and some other companies are kind of getting, they're kind of becoming monopolies, right?
Hmm.
And to see Trade Desk kind of emerge as a challenger to Google is good news. It
Especially
just
with Google
shows.
going away from the targeting ad spaces.
Yeah. So this is all good news. And continuing on, YouTube CEO basically said that they might lift ex-president Donald Trump's suspension um, if if they determine that the risk of violence has decreased. Um, so
Has Facebook given back Trump's account yet?
no, Facebook and Twitter have not given his access yet.
Okay.
Um, but it maybe in the coming months, YouTube might be the first one to do that. I personally don't think Trump will get his Twitter back. Um,
Yeah, that's definitely true. Um,
and Facebook has kind of created this this board, kind of like a government, a separate body, where they determine it's kind of like a court, where they determine who to ban and who to revoke the ban. And I think that governing body, or sorry, not governing body, but that body has determined that Trump won't be able to get his Facebook access back.
hmm
Yeah. So
Yeah,
well,
so I think
now
that's it from the tech news.
yeah. Well, let's talk about Andrew Cuomo. News just keeps getting worse and worse for him.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I've told you before. Cuomo for me is Trump in a democratic society and the Democratic Party. That's literally it. Ever
yeah.
since the pandemic started, he's
It
wanting as much fame as Trump has.
it was so interesting to see how like this change of events happened. So I in the beginning of the pandemic, right? People were hailing this guy as, oh, handled the pandemic so
He didn't
well.
handle shit.
Uh, yeah, he did all this, and his brother on CNN was hailing this guy, him, and now he comes with the what was it for forging all these numbers and these sexual misconduct allegations. I think you said he passed a law. Can you explain on that?
Yeah, I mean, this
Like
only
some.
came like a couple hours ago, but with the recent sexual allegations that he's had from
Mhm.
multiple former aides, and I think one was some sort of political, some aide.
It was
Um,
like 5 aides, I think.
yeah, something like that. He said he was embarrassed and he apologized for any pain he caused. But he said some of them allegations aren't true, which, I mean, going off the past 5 years, are you kind of surprised about that?
Oh no,
Um,
there's video proof. I've seen some of them where
yeah,
he's
I
kind of
mean,
acted like
Trump has
creepy and
basically
shit.
done the
So
same thing, and he's also denied it.
yeah,
So I'm telling you,
yeah,
this man is Trump just in the Democratic Party.
and they're
Um,
both from New York as
oh
well.
gosh,
So
And yeah,
Um,
so instead of resigning, which he should do because he hasn't done anything well for the past year, he is going to sign a bill passed by the state legislator that will limit his emergency powers. Basically, he
I
still
mean,
keeps all his powers, except in the worst case scenario, where
yeah,
most likely Biden would have taken control of if it were to get that bad.
yeah. I mean, I think the biggest, mistake, or kind of, even maybe crime. I mean, the FBI is investigating right now that he did was, altering the nursing home debts. I mean, that's just a huge, gross violation. I mean, to do that and then also call up reporters, or when reporters called him up and say, I'm going to destroy you if you do this, or you go and investigate this. I mean, that's just corruption beyond
Yeah,
big,
like
big
I don't
levels.
understand why everyone praised him. The man was on doing press conferences for like 5 hours a day, and then he
Yeah, I
has
remember.
time to harass these workers, harass reporters, and you're telling me he did squat? Like,
Yeah.
um, I don't even know if this man should not
I
be
mean,
in
it
power.
was just, the media and the Democrats protecting this guy. So and also, I mean, he's kind of being he's kind of setting his stage for a potential presidential bid.
No, I mean
Um,
that's going to be inevitable. He is definitely going to run.
no, if this scandal or none of these news came out, he would definitely be
Hmm.
a candidate for 2024, because Biden has already hinted at not running again, and it just seems like he would be the next person to step for the to be the face of the Democratic Party. Um, but now with all these allegations and a possible resignation, I mean, he said he won't resign, but if more allegations come out and the FBI does in fact convict this guy, I mean, it's pretty much done deal for him. He's not going to run anymore. So yeah, I mean, it could end very bad for
And
him
New York
in
was
the coming
ground
months.
zero as well. I don't understand why anyone is still praising him.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how things go in the media. Well, let's continue on to foreign
Yeah.
affairs. Let's speak about Iran and the European Union. So, Iran was kind of threatening the U.S. and the EU if they do a formal censure that they will continue to enrich their uranium. And looks like the European Union has backed away from formal censure, and the U.S. and Iran might be able to revive some nuclear talks. Um, but what's so interesting is, just a few hours ago, Saudi Arabia, Israel, U.S. they all flew bombers over Iran. They didn't do anything, but they just to threat Iran. Just to be like, hey, I'm here. If you do anything, just to kind of show a force of power. Um, so things are still there's still tension between Iran and our side, um, and there's just the fear of Iran enriching uranium to the point where they can make a nuclear weapon, a small warhead capable of destroying a city or something like that. So yeah, I mean, that's the Middle East right now.
Yeah. I mean, nothing new from there. I guess we'll see how it goes. It is kind of surprising that OPEC is also meeting very regularly now,
Hmm.
considering that the pandemic has kind of eased off a bit. But yeah, they seem to be on pace for creating the highest oil prices we've had since I think 2017.
Ooh, yeah.
So yeah, get your gas out now.
I remember, like, when I went to Atlanta in December, I would see gas prices of like a low $2. Now they say it's really high. I think it's like 2.3 or 2.4 right now, 2.5. Um, so makes sense.
But yeah,
Well,
other than that, we
let's talk.
have China.
Yep, China.
Lots of
Yeah,
stuff in China.
they are setting their GDP growth target at 6% or over 6%. Um, they also have concerns of a growth. I think their population of elders, people over 55, or I think 55. The aging population is growing rapidly, and they want to encourage more births. Which, the meme when, if you have a girl baby, kill it. And now you see this with China saying they want to encourage more births. I mean, okay, China.
And do what you want.
And I think also the internment camps. They're now China has openly confirmed that they have internment camps for the Uyghurs, which years after denying this, and our intelligence reports with satellite images of these camps and things like that, China has finally confirmed that they have these internment camps.
Yeah, and the worst.
What is the UN gonna do about this? What is the US gonna do about this?
Nothing so far. Have to see they haven't done shit with Hong Kong. You expect them to do anything for these guys?
And also, I don't want to get too much into this, but you don't see a lot of Muslim countries that are openly, against what China's doing, and that's probably because there's a lot of African and Middle East countries that are in debt to China, and under Chinese control, or they buy arms from China, right? So if you're gonna talk against China and be like, hey, you guys are detaining Uyghurs and putting them in internment camps, then China has, with all the new power, they're so powerful, right? So that's why they don't want to talk against them, and that's a big problem now. And I think also in Hong Kong, we were talking about how China was taking out these pro-democracy politicians a few podcasts ago, and they're continuing to do that and jailing them. So then a lot of bad things are going in Hong Kong right now.
Yeah, and I mean, with Hong Kong, it's getting even worse out there. I mean, right now, China, especially in the internment camps, it's basically invasion of privacy all over. They are having DNA tests, fingerprint tests. They're tracking their phones.
Yeah.
They're making sure they have every information they can out of everyone in Hong Kong and these detainment camps.
Yeah, and they're also forcing. They're also forcing these this Uyghur population to get rid of their religion. So they're kind of forcing them towards a secular view, which is completely disgusting. I mean, I don't know what the other countries are going to do about this. How they're going to tackle the situation there.
But yeah.
But speaking of more Chinese news, the Ant Group IPO under Jack Ma basically said that the IPO will eventually, not soon, but eventually will go public. They're all unhappy because when you go IPO, that's when millionaires turn to billionaires, and that didn't happen. But they're saying that the company will eventually go public. So we'll see how that goes. It was supposed to be one of the biggest IPOs in history. It was gonna open up at such, I think it was like maybe $150 billion valuation, bigger than Facebook and Snowflake. So if they go public, they will be one of the biggest IPOs.
What were they? Yeah, what was their original IPO going to be at?
I'm not sure, but it was definitely over 120 or 130 billion.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And in other Asian news, we have Myanmar's military, continuing to do what it does best: suppress protests. No surprise there. I mean,
they have issued a state of emergency for a whole year. The military is under full control, and they're continuing. They detain like the royal family, and they're continuing to suppress protests. They've killed nearly 40 people on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's basically a genocide at this point. Kind of surprised the UN hasn't declared it a genocide, but maybe they will soon.
I mean, I don't know what would, I mean, you go into another sovereign, nation, and what are you gonna do? Like, which country is gonna inflict their military there? And it's just you're risking a war. So what's I don't know what the UN's gonna do, and what are they gonna do with the killing protesters? I mean, this is the UN or some world governing body has to do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of genocide and topics near that,
War crimes.
I think International Court is investigating possible war crimes committed against Palestinian territories since 2014. So they're going to be investigating what the IDF did, like Israeli Defense Force, and what Israel collectively did, in the West Bank and Gaza, regarding Palestinian territories. So, we'll see what they say.
Yeah, and there was a bribery charge in France. I think president.
The former president.
Yeah,
he was found guilty. Which I think it was like 3 presidents ago for Macron, or 2 presidents.
I think 3.
But yeah. So kind of crazy. I mean, this guy I think he's going to be on like house arrest. He's not going to prison, obviously. Politicians don't go to prison.
Oh man,
they just go on house arrest
in this beautiful mansion. But yeah, I think.
Yep.
I think this news like just came out as well. I don't know if you know Dassault Aviation in France.
Yeah, I think there's a defense company there.
Yeah, so their owner, or I guess Oliver Dassault, whose grandfather was the founder of Dassault Aviation, he died in a helicopter crash just recently.
I saw it trending on Twitter.
So
it was like billionaire died in
he was
crash.
A politician. He's not with the company anymore. He left because of conflict of interest. But yeah, I mean, I think he was estimated to be worth around like $7 billion. So it's a lot of money to be figured out where it's going to go. And he was a politician as well, so there's going to be some missing thing there. And he was the MP, so yeah. Oh, it's insane.
Member of Parliament?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Well, that's all we have for news. We have
a couple things coming
to
up
watch
next week.
To watch this week. We have the Roblox direct listing.
That's
so. I mean, I don't understand what the point of going for Roblox to go IPO. Do they have other games, or are they even like a game developer like Unity?
It's something like that. Like, I guess the best way to describe it is it's like Scratch and Xcode combined together.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know much more than that. It's literally all I know about it. But yeah, in direct listing, I mean, we will see where they go. Maybe they can shoot up like Palantir did. Who knows? But
I have a feeling that this stock is going to be, gonna rally based on Reddit support. There's going to be a lot of Redditors out there.
No, I don't think it'll rally that much. This is worth almost.
We're just going to support this.
I'm hearing.
this is basically like a Minecraft IPO.
Yeah. So. But I'm hearing this could go almost to 100 billion.
Oh my god.
Yeah, which would be insane, but that's like the most bullish case out there. And lastly, we have the telecom giants, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. They're going to host investor events for the major analyst companies out there, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and all those. And their main discussion is just going to be about 5G's future and where they think it's going to go.
Okay, interesting.
But yeah, that's all we have for you today, folks. Thanks for listening in. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you're watching on Spotify, make sure to follow us and come back next week when we talk about the news that happens in the following week. And we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Well, stay safe, guys. See you guys next week.